The wind howled through the Montana mountains with a fury that could freeze a man's blood in his veins, and Logan Crawford knew he had maybe an hour before the blizzard made travel impossible. But something ahead in the white void caught his eye, a dark shape that didn't belong in this wilderness. He urged his horse forward, squinting against the stinging snow, his thick coat doing little against the bitter cold that December afternoon in 1884. The shape became clearer as he approached, a figure slumped against a rock formation, covered in snow, barely moving. Logan dismounted quickly, his boots crunching in the deep powder, and knelt beside what he now saw was a woman, her lips blue, her dark hair plastered to her face with ice. "Madam," he said urgently, shaking her shoulder gently. "Madam, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered, revealing frightened green eyes that seemed to look right through him before focusing. She tried to speak, but her teeth chattered too violently. Logan didn't waste time. He scooped her into his arms, surprised at how light she was, and carried her to his horse. Getting them both mounted took some maneuvering, but he managed to settle her in front of him, holding her against his chest as he turned his gelding toward his cabin, still 3 miles away. The ride felt endless. Logan kept talking to her, keeping her awake, though she barely responded. He told her about his ranch, about the cattle he raised, about anything that came to mind. Her body trembled against his, and he held her tighter, willing his warmth into her frozen form. When his cabin finally appeared through the snow, relief flooded through him. He got them inside quickly, kicking the door shut behind them and carrying her straight to the fireplace. The embers from this morning's fire still glowed faintly, and he laid her on the rug before building up the flames. Once the fire blazed strong, he turned his attention back to her. Her clothes were soaked through, frozen in places. Logan knew she needed to get out of them, but propriety warred with necessity. Necessity won. He averted his eyes as much as possible while removing her outer layers, wrapping her in every blanket he owned. Her dress underneath was damp but not frozen, so he left it, focusing instead on rubbing her hands and feet, trying to restore circulation. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Hannah," she managed through chattering teeth. "Hannah Fisher." "I'm Logan Crawford. You're safe now, Hannah." "Can you tell me what you were doing out there?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Running," she whispered. "I was running away." He didn't press her for more. Instead, he heated water for tea and soup, bringing both to her once they were ready. She sipped slowly, color gradually returning to her cheeks. Logan studied her as she drank. She was beautiful, even half frozen and terrified. Dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and those green eyes held depths of pain he recognized from his own mirror. "How long were you out there?" he asked. "I don't know," Hannah said, her voice stronger now. "Hours, maybe. My horse threw me when the storm got bad. He ran off and I couldn't find any shelter. I thought I was going to die." "Well, you didn't," Logan said firmly. "And you won't. Storm should pass by tomorrow. You can rest here until you're strong enough to move on if that's what you want." Hannah looked around the cabin properly for the first time. It was simple but well kept. One large room with a bed in the corner, a table and chairs, shelves with supplies, and the fireplace. Everything spoke of a man who lived alone but took pride in his space. "Why did you help me?" she asked suddenly. Logan met her gaze. "Why wouldn't I? Most men would have ridden past, or worse, taken advantage." "I'm not most men," Logan said quietly, "and I know what it's like to need help and not find it." Something in his tone made Hannah study him more carefully. He was tall, probably in his mid-20s, with sandy brown hair and blue eyes that had seen hardship. His hands were calloused from work, and he moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin. But there was also a gentleness in how he'd cared for her, a kindness she hadn't expected to find. The wind rattled the cabin walls, reminding them both of the storm raging outside. Logan stood and checked the fire, adding more wood. "You should sleep," he said. "Take the bed." "I'll sleep by the fire." "I can't take your bed," Hannah protested. "You can and you will," Logan said firmly but not unkindly. "You nearly died out there. You need proper rest." Hannah was too exhausted to argue further. She let Logan help her to the bed, and she sank into it gratefully, still wrapped in the blankets. Sleep claimed her almost instantly. Logan watched her for a moment, then settled by the fire with his own blanket. His mind raced with questions. Who was she running from? What life had she fled? But those questions could wait. For now she was safe, and that was what mattered. He woke several times during the night to tend the fire and check on Hannah. She slept fitfully, sometimes crying out, caught in nightmares. Each time, Logan spoke softly until she settled again, though he doubted she ever fully woke. Morning came with an eerie silence. Logan rose and looked out the window to see the storm had passed, leaving everything buried in white. He started coffee and began making breakfast, the familiar routine comforting. The smell must have woken Hannah because she stirred, sitting up slowly. "How do you feel?" Logan asked. "Sore," Hannah admitted. "But alive, thank you for that. Coffee's ready. Breakfast will be soon." Hannah joined him at the table, accepting the cup he offered. They sat in companionable silence for a moment before she spoke. "I suppose you want to know my story." "Only if you want to tell it," Logan said, "but I won't lie and say I'm not curious." Hannah took a deep breath. "I was raised in an orphanage in Chicago. When I turned 18 last year, they told me I had to leave. A man named Marcus Sterling came to the orphanage sometimes, supposedly to donate money. He saw me and decided he wanted me as his wife. The matron convinced me it was my best option, that I should be grateful such a wealthy man was interested." Her hands trembled around the cup, and Logan resisted the urge to cover them with his own. "I didn't want to marry him," Hannah continued, "but I had nowhere else to go, no money, nothing. So I agreed. The marriage was supposed to happen in Redding, Montana, where he had business interests. He brought me here 2 months ago and kept me in a house on the edge of town. It wasn't a home, it was a prison." "Did he hurt you?" Logan asked, his voice tight. "Not physically," Hannah said. "But he controlled everything. What I wore, what I ate, who I could speak to, which was no one. He said once we were married, things would be different, but I knew they wouldn't be. They'd only get worse. So 3 days ago, when he went to Redding for business, I ran. I took a horse and what little money I'd managed to hide away, and I rode north, hoping to reach Canada eventually." "That's a long ride," Logan observed. "I know. I didn't think it through very well. I just knew I had to get away from him before the wedding. It was supposed to be tomorrow, actually, Christmas Eve," she laughed bitterly. "Some gift that would have been." Logan was quiet for a moment, processing her story. "This Marcus Sterling, he's going to come looking for you." "Yes," Hannah said, fear creeping into her voice. "He'll be furious. He doesn't like losing things he considers his property." "You're not property," Logan said firmly. "You're a person, and you have every right to choose your own life." Tears spilled down Hannah's cheeks. "You really believe that?" "I know it," Logan said, "and I'll help you if you'll let me." "Why?" Hannah asked again, wiping her tears. "You don't know me. Why would you put yourself at risk for a stranger?" Logan stood and poured them both more coffee, buying himself a moment to think. When he returned to the table, he met her gaze directly. 5 years ago, I was working on a ranch in Wyoming. The owner's daughter took a liking to me, but I wasn't interested. When I turned her down, she told her father I'd made improper advances toward her. He and his men beat me half to death and left me in the desert to die. A traveling preacher found me and saved my life. He never asked for anything in return, just said sometimes we're put in places to help people who need it. He paused, remembering. I swore then that if I ever had the chance to help someone the way he helped me, I would. So that's why, Hannah. Because someone helped me when I needed it most, and now I can do the same for you. Hannah reached across the table and took his hand. Thank you, she whispered. The touch of her hand sent an unexpected jolt through Logan. He cleared his throat and gently withdrew, standing to check on the breakfast. We need to figure out a plan, he said, keeping his voice steady. If Sterling is looking for you, Redding's only about 15 miles south. He'll search north, which means he might come this way. Maybe I should keep moving, Hannah said. I don't want to bring trouble to your door. In this snow, you wouldn't make it 5 miles. Besides, I have an idea. Logan served the eggs and bacon he'd prepared, and they ate while he explained his thoughts. I have a friend, Daniel Montgomery, who runs a ranch about 30 miles west of here. He's a good man, former lawman. If we can get you there, he might be able to help you figure out your next move. Maybe even help with Sterling legally. Legally? Hannah sounded doubtful. What law is going to help an orphan girl against a wealthy man? More than you might think, Logan said. Montana territory has been making strides. Women have rights here, more than in a lot of places. And forcing someone into marriage is still kidnapping, no matter how rich you are. Hope flickered in Hannah's eyes. When could we leave? The snow's deep, but the sky's clear. If it stays that way, maybe tomorrow. Today you need to rest and regain your strength, and I need to take care of the horses and check my cattle. Can I help? Hannah asked. Logan looked surprised. You ever worked a ranch? No, Hannah admitted, but I can learn. I don't want to just sit here useless. Something about her determination made Logan smile. All right, but we start slow. You're still recovering. They spent the day together, and Logan found himself enjoying Hannah's company more than he'd expected. She was curious about everything, asking questions about ranching, about Montana, about his life. She helped him tend the horses, laughing when his gelding nuzzled her looking for treats. She even insisted on helping prepare dinner, though her cooking skills were admittedly limited. The orphanage didn't exactly prepare us for practical life, she said ruefully, looking at the slightly burned potatoes. They taught us to read and write and sew, things that would make us acceptable wives, but not much about actually living. These are fine, Logan assured her, and they actually weren't bad, just crispy. Besides, living is something you learn by doing, not from lessons. That night, after dinner, they sat by the fire and talked more. Logan found himself telling Hannah things he'd never told anyone. About his childhood as the youngest of 4 brothers. About losing his parents to cholera when he was 16. About drifting from ranch to ranch, before finally saving enough to buy this land 2 years ago. It's not much yet, he admitted. Just 100 acres and a small herd, but it's mine and I'm building it into something. Someday, I want it to be a real ranch, a place where I can raise a family, build a legacy. That sounds wonderful, Hannah said softly. I've never had anything that was truly mine. Even my name doesn't feel like it belongs to me. Fisher was just what they called foundlings at the orphanage. Well, it's your name now, Logan said. You get to decide what it means. They fell silent, both staring into the fire. Logan was acutely aware of Hannah's presence beside him, of the way the firelight played across her features, of the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. He'd only known her for a day, but something about her drew him in, made him want to know everything about her. Logan, Hannah said quietly, what happens if Sterling finds me? He won't, Logan said with more confidence than he felt. But if he does, Logan turned to look at her. Then he'll have to go through me first. The next morning dawned clear and cold. Logan saddled both horses while Hannah packed supplies. He'd given her warmer clothes, some old things of his that she'd altered to fit well enough. She looked different in trousers and a heavy shirt, her hair braided back, but no less beautiful. They set out mid-morning, the horses struggling some through the deep snow but managing. Logan kept them at a steady pace, not pushing too hard. He kept watch constantly, scanning the horizon for any sign of riders. They'd been traveling for about 2 hours when Logan spotted something that made his stomach drop. Smoke, rising from beyond a ridge to the south. Too much smoke to be from a cabin. It looked like multiple riders, maybe a search party. "We need to move faster," he said to Hannah, urging his horse forward. "What is it?" she asked, following his gaze. "Might be nothing. Might be trouble. Either way, I'd rather not wait to find out." They pushed on, the horses working harder now, but the snow was deep and the going was slow. Logan kept glancing back, and his fears were confirmed when he saw riders crest the ridge behind them. 5 men moving in their direction. "Logan," Hannah said, her voice tight with fear. "I see them. Just keep riding." But the men were gaining, their horses fresher and stronger. Within 20 minutes, they were close enough for Logan to hear them calling out. He considered making a stand, but 5 against 1 were bad odds, especially with Hannah to protect. The decision was taken from him when the lead rider fired a shot into the air. Logan pulled up his horse, positioning himself between Hannah and the approaching men. His hand moved to the revolver at his hip, though he didn't draw it. The 5 men surrounded them, and Logan's heart sank when he saw the lead rider. The man was probably in his 40s, well-dressed even for travel, with cold gray eyes and a thin mouth set in a hard line. This had to be Marcus Sterling. "Hannah," Sterling said, his voice smooth but with an edge of steel. "You've caused me quite a bit of trouble." "I'm not going back," Hannah said, and Logan was proud of how steady her voice remained despite her fear. Sterling's gaze shifted to Logan, assessing. "And who might you be?" "Logan Crawford. This is my land you're on." "Is it now?" Sterling said. "And I suppose you just happened to find my fiancée wandering around your land." "She's not your fiancée," Logan said flatly. "She doesn't want to marry you," Sterling laughed, though there was no humor in it. "What a young woman wants is irrelevant. We have an agreement, legally binding." "She belongs to me." "I belong to no one," Hannah said, her voice rising. One of Sterling's men moved his horse closer, and Logan's hand tightened on his revolver. "I'd think carefully about your next move," he warned. Sterling held up a hand, stopping his man. "Mr. Crawford, I can see you're a reasonable man. This is simply a misunderstanding. Hannah has been through a difficult time, adjusting to a new life. She got confused, scared, but she needs to come home now where she belongs. I'm willing to overlook this indiscretion." "There's no indiscretion to overlook," Logan said. "She's free to make her own choices." "Actually, she's not," Sterling said, pulling a paper from his coat. "This is a contract signed by both Hannah and the matron of the Chicago Mercy Orphanage, who served as her legal guardian. It stipulates that in exchange for certain financial considerations, Hannah would marry me. It's completely legal." Hannah's face paled. "You paid for me, like property." "I made a business arrangement," Sterling corrected. "One that you benefited from. The orphanage received a generous donation, and you received the opportunity to become a wealthy man's wife. Some women would kill for such a chance." Logan's jaw clenched. That contract was made under duress. She had no real choice. "Choice is a luxury, Mr. Crawford. Now, Hannah, come here. It's time to go home and prepare for our wedding. I've been patient, but my patience has limits." "No," Hannah said firmly. "I won't." Sterling's expression hardened. "Then you force my hand." He nodded to his men, and 2 of them moved toward Hannah. Logan drew his revolver in one smooth motion, pointing it at Sterling. Not another step. The other men drew their weapons, all pointed at Logan. Sterling smiled coldly. "Are you really willing to die for a woman you just met?" Logan didn't waver. "Are you willing to die trying to kidnap her?" The standoff held for a long moment. Logan's mind raced, trying to figure a way out of this that didn't end with him dead and Hannah taken. He was a decent shot, but not fast enough to take down 5 armed men. The answer came from an unexpected direction. A voice rang out across the snow. "Gentlemen, I suggest everyone lower their weapons before someone gets hurt." Logan glanced over to see 3 riders approaching from the west. He recognized the lead rider immediately, and relief flooded through him. Daniel Montgomery, his friend, the former lawman he'd been planning to take Hannah to see. Daniel was a big man in his 50s, with graying hair and a no-nonsense demeanor that commanded respect. With Daniel were 2 younger men Logan didn't recognize, but they wore deputy badges and carried rifles pointed in Sterling's direction. "Daniel," Logan said gratefully. "Logan, saw the smoke from your cabin's chimney yesterday and figured I'd ride over to check on you after the storm. Seems I arrived at the right time." Daniel's gaze fixed on Sterling. "I'm Daniel Montgomery, federal marshal for this territory. Now, someone want to tell me what's going on here." Sterling recovered quickly, his smooth manner returning. "Marshal Montgomery, excellent. You can help resolve this situation. This young woman is my fiancée and she ran away from home. I'm simply trying to bring her back." "Is this true, miss?" Daniel asked Hannah. "My name is Hannah Fisher," she said clearly. "Mr. Sterling arranged with my orphanage to marry me. I agreed because I had nowhere else to go and no other options. But I've changed my mind. I don't want to marry him and I ran away to escape." "She signed a contract," Sterling interjected, waving the paper. "Legally binding." Daniel rode closer and took the paper, reading it carefully. His expression grew stern. "This contract stipulates that Hannah Fisher would agree to marry Marcus Sterling in exchange for a payment of $500 to the Chicago Mercy Orphanage. Is that correct?" "Yes," Sterling said confidently, "which makes this a legal matter, not a criminal one." "Actually," Daniel said, "it makes it both. You see, Montana territory law is quite clear on this point. A marriage contract must be entered into freely by both parties. If one party was coerced or had no viable alternative, the contract can be voided. Additionally, paying someone else for the right to marry a person constitutes human trafficking under federal law, which falls under my jurisdiction." Sterling's confidence faltered. "That's absurd. It was a donation to the orphanage." "A donation contingent on receiving a specific person as a bride," Daniel said. "That's trafficking, Mr. Sterling. Now I'm going to ask Miss Fisher directly in front of witnesses, do you wish to marry this man?" "No," Hannah said firmly. "I do not." "There's your answer," Daniel said. "The contract is void. Miss Fisher is free to go where she pleases." "This is outrageous," Sterling sputtered. "I have rights. I spent good money." "You spent money trying to buy a human being," Daniel corrected, "which is illegal. Now, I suggest you and your men head back to Reading before I decide to arrest you all." Sterling's face flushed with anger. "You haven't heard the last of this, Marshal. I have friends in high places." "I'm sure you do," Daniel said calmly, "but territorial law is still the law. Move along now." Sterling glared at Hannah. "You'll regret this. You're nothing without me. You'll end up starving in a ditch somewhere." "I'd rather starve free than live as your prisoner," Hannah said. Logan felt a surge of pride at her words. Sterling wheeled his horse around and galloped away, his men following. They watched until the group disappeared over the ridge. Daniel turned to Logan with a slight smile. "You do know how to find trouble, don't you?" Seems to find me, Logan admitted, holstering his weapon. Daniel, this is Hannah Fisher. Hannah Daniel Montgomery, he's the friend I was telling you about. Thank you, Marshal, Hannah said. You saved my life. Just doing my job, miss, though I'd like to get the full story and I need to file a report on this. He looked at Logan. Were you heading somewhere? To your place, actually, Logan said. To ask for your help. Well, you found it. Let's head back there now. It's closer than your cabin and we can get everything sorted out properly. They rode together, and Logan found himself relaxing for the first time since spotting Hannah in the snow. Daniel's ranch was impressive, a sprawling operation with a large house and several outbuildings. Daniel's wife, Martha, welcomed them warmly, immediately taking Hannah under her wing and insisting she needed a proper bath and fresh clothes. While Hannah was occupied, Logan and Daniel sat in the study, and Logan told him everything. Daniel listened carefully, taking notes. The good news is that contract really is void, Daniel said when Logan finished. The bad news is Sterling's not wrong about having influence. He might try to cause trouble through other channels. What can we do? Logan asked. Well, legally, Hannah needs to establish herself as an independent person. That means she needs a place to live, a means of supporting herself. The law tends to look more favorably on people who can demonstrate self-sufficiency. She could stay with me, Logan said, then realized how that sounded. I mean, in a proper way. She could work on my ranch, earn wages. It's all above board. Daniel studied him with knowing eyes. Logan, you've known this woman for 2 days. I know, Logan said, but Daniel, I can't explain it. There's something about her. She's brave and determined, and she deserves a chance at her real life. I want to help her have that. And that's all it is. Wanting to help. Logan met his friend's gaze. I don't know yet, maybe more. But right now she needs help and I can provide it. The rest can sort itself out. Daniel nodded slowly. All right, but you need to do this right. No sharing a cabin unmarried. Martha and I can keep Hannah here for a while, let her get her feet under her. She can help Martha around the place, earn some money. You can visit, court her properly if that's what you want. Give it time and do it right. Logan knew Daniel was correct. You're right, thank you. When Hannah joined them later, clean and dressed in one of Martha's dresses, Daniel explained the situation. Mrs. Montgomery and I would be honored if you'd stay with us for a time, Miss Fisher. You can help around the ranch and we'll pay you fair wages. It'll help establish you as an independent person, which will make it harder for Sterling to cause problems. Hannah looked at Logan, uncertainty in her eyes. He gave her an encouraging nod. It's a good idea, Hannah. The Montgomerys are wonderful people. You'll be safe here. But what about you? Hannah asked. I'll visit, Logan promised. Often, and when you're ready, when things are settled, we can figure out what comes next. What if I want to work on your ranch? Hannah asked. You said you'd help me. And I will, Logan assured her. But Daniel's right. We need to do this properly, make sure everything is legal and above board. This way is better. Hannah looked like she wanted to argue but finally nodded. All right, if you think it's best. Over the next few weeks, Logan visited the Montgomery ranch regularly. He told himself it was just to check on Hannah, to make sure she was settling in well. But the truth was, he looked forward to seeing her with an intensity that surprised him. Hannah thrived under Martha's guidance. She learned to cook properly, to manage a household, to handle ranch accounts. She also learned to ride better, to rope, to do a dozen tasks that made her useful on the ranch. But more than that, she blossomed. The fear that had haunted her eyes faded, replaced by confidence and joy. Logan courted her the way Daniel had suggested, properly and respectfully. He brought her flowers when they bloomed in early spring. He took her on chaperoned rides through the mountains. They talked for hours, learning each other's hopes and dreams, fears and joys. He learned that Hannah loved to read but had only ever had access to a few books. He brought her books from Reading, watching her face light up with each new story. She learned that Logan had always wanted to see the ocean but had never traveled far from Montana. She promised that someday they would go together. It was on one of their rides, 3 months after they'd met, that Logan finally spoke what had been growing in his heart. They'd stopped by a stream, the water rushing with snowmelt, and were sitting on a fallen log. "Hannah," Logan said, "I know we haven't known each other long, and I know you've been through a lot, that you're just starting to build a life of your own, but I need you to know how I feel." Hannah turned to him, her green eyes soft. "Logan, let me finish," he said gently. "From the moment I found you in that storm, something changed in me. At first, I thought it was just wanting to help someone in need, but it's more than that. You're strong and brave and beautiful inside and out. You make me laugh. You make me want to be a better man. You make me want to build that ranch I've dreamed of, but not just for me, for us, together." He took her hand. "I love you, Hannah Fisher. I know it's fast, and I know you might not feel the same way, but I had to tell you." Tears streamed down Hannah's face, but she was smiling. "Oh, Logan, I love you too. I've loved you almost from the beginning. You saved my life, yes, but more than that, you gave me hope. You treated me like a person, like I mattered. You've been patient and kind and everything I never knew I could have." Logan cupped her face in his hands, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. "Can I kiss you, please?" Hannah whispered. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they parted, both were breathing hard, and Logan rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said. "Not because you have no choice, but because you want to. Marry me and build a life with me. We'll grow the ranch together. We'll have a family. We'll have everything we've both dreamed of." "Yes," Hannah said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I'll marry you, Logan Crawford." They told Daniel and Martha that evening, and Martha immediately burst into happy tears and began planning. "A June wedding," she declared. "That gives us 3 months to prepare properly." "3 months," Logan said. "Can't we do it sooner?" Daniel laughed. "Trust me, son, you don't want to rush Martha when she's planning a wedding. Besides, it'll give Hannah time to make sure this is really what she wants." "I know what I want," Hannah said firmly, taking Logan's hand. "But I understand. We'll do it right." Those 3 months were both wonderful and challenging. Logan threw himself into improving his ranch, building an addition onto the cabin that would give them more room. He repaired fences, bought more cattle, and worked from dawn until dark getting everything ready. Hannah helped Martha plan the wedding while continuing to work and save money. She wanted to contribute to their new life together, not come to Logan empty-handed. She sewed her own wedding dress with Martha's help, a simple but beautiful gown of white cotton with lace trim. But the shadow of Marcus Sterling still loomed. He'd left Reading after the confrontation, but word came through Daniel that he was making inquiries, trying to find a legal way to challenge Hannah's freedom. Daniel filed his report with the territorial authorities, detailing Sterling's attempt to purchase a bride, but the legal process moved slowly. "Don't worry," Daniel assured them. "Once you're married, it'll be even harder for him to make any claim. And I've sent word to contacts in Chicago about the orphanage. If they were selling girls, that needs to be stopped." 2 weeks before the wedding, trouble arrived. Logan was working on the cabin addition when he saw riders approaching. His stomach sank when he recognized Sterling among them. But this time, Sterling wasn't alone with his hired men. He had a man in a suit with him, someone official-looking. Logan met them in front of the cabin, his hand near his revolver but not touching it. "Mr. Crawford," Sterling said with false politeness. This is Judge Harrison Colton from Billings. He has some questions about your relationship with Hannah Fisher." The judge dismounted, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Crawford, I've been asked to investigate allegations that you're harboring a woman who is legally contracted to marry Mr. Sterling. I need to speak with Miss Fisher." "She's not here," Logan said truthfully. "She lives at the Montgomery Ranch." "Very convenient," Sterling said snidely. "Hiding her away." "She's not hiding," Logan said, keeping his temper in check. "She's working there and living there respectably. And the contract Sterling is talking about was voided by Federal Marshal Daniel Montgomery." Judge Colton looked interested. "Is that so? Mr. Sterling, you didn't mention a federal marshal was involved." Sterling waved a hand dismissively. "A local lawman overstepping his authority. The contract is valid under Illinois law where it was signed. But we're in Montana territory," Logan pointed out, "where Marshal Montgomery has jurisdiction and where the contract violates territorial and federal law regarding human trafficking." The judge's expression grew stern. "Mr. Sterling, is it true that you paid money to an orphanage in exchange for this woman agreeing to marry you?" "It was a donation," Sterling insisted, "and she agreed to the marriage." "Under duress," Logan said. "She was 18, alone, with no money and nowhere to go. She was told marrying Sterling was her only option. That's not free consent." Judge Colton nodded slowly. "I'll need to speak with Miss Fisher myself and review all the documentation, but I can tell you, Mr. Sterling, that if the facts are as Mr. Crawford states, you have no legal claim here. Montana territory law is very clear about consent in marriage contracts." "I have friends in Washington," Sterling threatened. "This isn't over." "Threats don't impress me," Judge Colton said, "and neither does attempting to buy a bride. Mr. Crawford, please ask Miss Fisher to come to Billings next week to give her statement. I'll review Marshal Montgomery's report as well." After they left, Logan rode immediately to the Montgomery Ranch to tell Hannah and Daniel what had happened. Daniel was pleased. "Judge Colton is a good man, fair and honest. If he's reviewing the case, Sterling's done for." The following week, they all traveled to Billings. Hannah gave her statement clearly and calmly, detailing everything that had happened. Judge Colton listened carefully, asking questions but treating her with respect. He also reviewed the contract and Daniel's report. His ruling came 2 days later. The contract was void, unenforceable under Montana territory law. Furthermore, he was forwarding the case to federal authorities to investigate whether Sterling had violated federal trafficking laws. Sterling was ordered to cease all contact with Hannah Fisher and leave Montana territory within 1 week. The relief was overwhelming. Hannah cried in Logan's arms, finally truly free. "It's over," she kept saying. "It's really over." "It's over," Logan confirmed, holding her close. "You're free, and in 2 weeks you'll be my wife." The wedding day dawned bright and clear, a perfect June morning in 1885. The ceremony was held at the small church in Reading, with half the town in attendance. Hannah looked beautiful in her handmade dress, her dark hair crowned with wildflowers. Logan wore his best suit, his hands shaking slightly as he took Hannah's. The preacher smiled at them both. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. Marriage is not to be entered into lightly, but reverently, and with full consent of both parties." Logan and Hannah exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Logan promised to love her, protect her, and support her dreams. Hannah promised to stand beside him, to build a life together, and to love him all her days. When Logan slipped the simple gold band onto her finger, his voice was thick with emotion. "With this ring I thee wed, and all my worldly goods I thee endow. in sickness and in health, in poverty or in wealth, till death do us part." Hannah's eyes shone with tears as she repeated her vows, placing a ring on his finger as well. "I now pronounce you man and wife," the preacher declared. "You may kiss your bride." Logan kissed her thoroughly to the applause and cheers of their friends. They were married. Hannah was finally, truly safe, and they could begin their life together. The reception at the Montgomery ranch was joyful and loud. There was food and music and dancing. Logan danced with his wife, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms, how right everything felt. "Happy?" he asked as they swayed to the music. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Hannah said. "A year ago I was alone in an orphanage, terrified of my future. Now I have a husband I love, friends, a home. It feels like a dream." "It's real," Logan promised, "and it's just the beginning." As the sun set, they said their goodbyes and rode to Logan's ranch, their ranch now. Logan had finished the addition, creating a proper bedroom and a larger living space. Hannah had helped furnish it over the past weeks, and it truly felt like a home. That night, they came together as husband and wife, and it was everything it should be, tender and passionate and full of love. Afterward, lying in each other's arms, they talked about the future. "I want to expand the herd," Logan said. "Maybe buy more land if we can, build this into something substantial." "I want to help," Hannah said. "I'm not just going to sit in the house. I can work the ranch alongside you." Logan smiled. "I know you can. We're partners in this, Hannah, in everything. And someday," Hannah said softly, "I want children, a family. I want to give them everything I never had, a home, parents who love them, security." "We'll have all of that," Logan promised. "All of it." The first year of marriage was hard work, but happy. They worked the ranch together, building the herd and improving the land. Hannah proved to be a natural rancher, unafraid of hard work and quick to learn. She could rope a calf as well as Logan, ride fence lines, and help with birthing when needed. But she also made their cabin a home. She planted a garden, filling their table with fresh vegetables. She learned to preserve food for the winter. She sewed curtains and quilts, turning the simple cabin into a warm, welcoming space. Neighbors who'd been skeptical of the city girl who'd married Logan Crawford came to respect Hannah. She was kind but not soft, generous but not foolish. When a neighboring family fell ill with influenza, Hannah nursed them back to health. When a barn fire destroyed another neighbor's winter feed, Logan and Hannah were the first to share from their own supplies. They became part of the community, respected and valued. The ranch prospered. Logan bought another 100 acres and increased the herd. They hired a hand, a young man named Sam who worked hard and kept respectful. Life was good. In the spring of 1886, Hannah discovered she was pregnant. She told Logan one evening after dinner, watching nervously for his reaction. His face lit up with pure joy. "Truly, we're having a baby." "Yes," Hannah said, laughing as he swept her up and spun her around. "Logan, be careful," he set her down gently, immediately solicitous. "Are you all right? Do you need to sit down? Should you be working?" "I'm pregnant, not fragile," Hannah said, amused. "Women have babies all the time and keep working. I'm fine." But Logan couldn't help being protective. He insisted she not lift anything heavy, tried to keep her from working too hard, and worried constantly. Hannah found it endearing even when it was frustrating. Martha Montgomery was delighted when they told her the news. She helped Hannah prepare, teaching her about childbirth and infant care. Daniel gifted them with a beautiful cradle he'd carved himself. As summer arrived and Hannah's belly grew, Logan found himself thinking about his own childhood, about his parents and how they'd loved him. He wanted to be that kind of father, present and involved, building memories that would last. One evening, sitting on the porch and watching the sunset, Hannah rested her head on Logan's shoulder. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," Logan admitted. "What if I'm not a good father? What if something goes wrong?" "You'll be a wonderful father," Hannah said firmly. "You're kind and patient and loving. And as for something going wrong, we can't control everything. We just have to trust and do our best." "When did you get so wise?" Logan asked, kissing her forehead. "I've always been wise," Hannah teased. "You're just now noticing." In October, Hannah went into labor. Logan rode frantically to fetch Martha while Sam stayed with Hannah. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next day. Logan paced outside, unable to bear being away but unable to watch Hannah in pain. Finally, as the sun set on October 15th, a baby's cry split the air. Martha emerged moments later smiling. "You have a son, Logan, a healthy, strong son, and Hannah is fine, just tired." Logan rushed inside to find Hannah propped up in bed, looking exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle. He approached slowly in awe. "Meet your son," Hannah said softly. Logan looked down at the tiny face, the small fists waving, and felt his heart expand in a way he'd never experienced. "He's perfect," he whispered. "You're perfect. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you for this gift." "What should we name him?" Hannah asked. They discussed names but never settled on one. Logan thought for a moment. "What about William, after the preacher who saved my life? William Crawford." Hannah smiled. "William. Billy, I love it." "Hello, Billy." Baby William was a good child, healthy and happy. Logan was a devoted father, taking to parenthood naturally. He'd hold Billy for hours, talking to him, singing to him, telling him stories. Hannah would watch them together and feel her heart overflow with love. The ranch continued to grow. With the extra work of a baby, they hired another hand, and Logan built a small bunkhouse for Sam and the new man. They added chickens and pigs to their cattle operation, becoming more self-sufficient. When Billy was 2, Hannah became pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was easier, and she worked almost until the day of delivery. Their daughter, Emma, was born in May of 1889, a tiny thing with her mother's dark hair and her father's blue eyes. "Now our family is complete," Logan said, holding Emma while Billy tried to climb up to see his new sister. "For now," Hannah said with a mysterious smile. Over the next years, their family did indeed grow. A second son, James, arrived in 1891. Then twin daughters, Clara and Rose, in 1893. The cabin was bursting at the seams, so Logan built a proper house, a 2-story structure with enough room for their growing family. The ranch grew too. By 1895, the Crawford Ranch was one of the most successful in the region, with over 500 acres and a substantial herd. They employed several hands year-round and more during busy seasons. Logan and Hannah were respected members of the community, known for their hard work and generosity. The children thrived. Billy was serious and studious, already talking about becoming a lawyer. Emma was adventurous, more comfortable on a horse than anywhere else. James was the peacemaker, always trying to make everyone happy. The twins were still young but already showed distinct personalities. Clara quiet and thoughtful, Rose boisterous and bold. Hannah sometimes thought back to that desperate girl fleeing through a snowstorm, certain she was going to die. It felt like a different lifetime, a different person. She'd been so scared, so alone. Now, surrounded by the noise and chaos of 5 children, working alongside the husband she adored, she couldn't imagine any other life. One evening in the summer of 1895, after the children were finally asleep, Logan and Hannah sat on the porch of their house, watching the stars. "You ever regret it?" Logan asked. "The hard work, the isolation sometimes, all of this." Hannah looked at him in surprise. "Never." Not for a single moment. This life, this family, it's everything I dreamed of and more. Why? Do you regret it? God, no, Logan said. I just want to make sure you're happy that this is enough for you. Hannah took his hand. Logan Crawford, you saved my life that day in the snow. But more than that, you gave me a life worth living. You loved me when I thought I was unlovable. You gave me a home, a family, a purpose. I've never been happier than I am right now in this moment with you. Logan pulled her close, kissing her deeply. After 11 years of marriage, she could still make his heart race. I love you, Hannah Crawford, more today than yesterday, less than tomorrow. And I love you, Hannah said, always and forever. As the years continued to pass, their love only deepened. They weathered hard times together, droughts that threatened the herd, illnesses that scared them, the challenges of raising 5 children. But they also celebrated triumphs. Billy's acceptance to law school, Emma's prize-winning horse, James's musical talent, the twins' academic achievements. In 1905, on their 20th wedding anniversary, Logan surprised Hannah with a trip. He'd arranged for Martha to watch the children, and he took Hannah on the train all the way to San Francisco. The ocean, Hannah breathed when she first saw it, tears streaming down her face. You remembered. I remember everything, Logan said, holding her hand as they stood on the beach. Every conversation, every dream you ever told me. You wanted to see the ocean, so here we are. They spent a week in San Francisco, acting like young newlyweds again. They ate at nice restaurants, attended the theater, walked along the beach, and made love in their hotel room with a freedom they hadn't had in years. It was magical. On their last night, sitting on the beach watching the sunset, Hannah said, "Thank you for this, Logan, for everything. For the life we've built." "Thank you for saying yes," Logan replied. "For taking a chance on a cowboy with more dreams than sense. For building this life with me." "I'd do it all again," Hannah said. "Every moment, every hardship, every joy, I'd choose you every single time." They returned home renewed, ready for whatever came next. The children were growing up, starting to build their own lives. Billy had graduated law school and was practicing in Billings. Emma had married a neighboring rancher's son, a good man who loved her adventurous spirit. James was still at home but talking about joining the military band. The twins, now 12, kept Hannah and Logan busy with their own activities and interests. Clara wanted to be a teacher, Rose a doctor. Logan supported both dreams, proud of his daughter's ambitions. In 1910, Hannah became a grandmother for the first time when Emma gave birth to a son. Holding her grandson, Hannah marveled at how life came full circle. She'd started with nothing, no family, no home, no hope. Now she had children and grandchildren, a legacy of love that would continue long after she was gone. Logan, watching her with their grandson, felt the same sense of wonder. The scared woman he'd found in the snow had become the matriarch of a growing family, beloved and respected. And he'd been privileged to be part of that transformation, to love her and be loved by her. As they grew older, they slowed down some. Logan hired a manager to help run the ranch, though he still worked every day. Hannah spent more time with her garden and her grandchildren, though she still kept the household running smoothly. On a cold December day in 1914, 30 years after they'd met, Logan and Hannah took a ride up into the mountains. It was a clear day, the snow pristine and beautiful. Logan led them to a familiar spot, a rock formation where the wind had carved interesting shapes. "This is where I found you," he said quietly. Hannah looked around, memories flooding back. "I was so scared, so certain I was going to die. And I was just heading home, thinking about dinner and checking the stock," Logan said. "Had no idea my whole life was about to change." They stood in silence for a moment, both reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. Then Logan spoke again. "I've been thinking about something. Our story, it's special. It should be written down, preserved, so our grandchildren and great-grandchildren know where they came from." "You want to write our story?" Hannah asked. "I want us to write it together," Logan said. "The truth of it. How scared you were, how I almost rode past, how we fell in love and built this life, all of it." Hannah smiled. "I think that's a wonderful idea." So they did. Over the next years, they sat together and wrote their story, taking turns with different parts, filling pages with memories and emotions and the truth of their journey. It became a family treasure, passed down through generations. As they aged, their love remained constant. Logan's hair went silver. Hannah's dark locks turned gray. But when they looked at each other, they still saw the young man who'd offered rescue and the young woman who'd had the courage to accept it. In 1925, they celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary with their entire family gathered at the ranch. Children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren filled the house with noise and laughter. Logan and Hannah stood together, watching the chaos with deep satisfaction. "We did good," Logan said softly. "We did very good," Hannah agreed. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, they sat by the fire as they had so many times before. Logan held Hannah's hand, his thumb tracing the familiar pattern of her wedding ring. "If you could go back," he said, "back to that moment in the snow, knowing everything that would come after, all the hard work and challenges, would you still do it?" Hannah didn't hesitate. "In a heartbeat. Every moment with you has been worth it. Every struggle we faced together. Every joy was sweeter because we shared it. You gave me a life, Logan. More than that, you gave me love." "You gave me the same," Logan said. "I was just existing before you, going through the motions. You gave me purpose, gave me a reason to build something lasting. You gave me a family, a legacy. You gave me everything." They sat in comfortable silence, hands entwined, watching the fire burn low. Outside, snow began to fall, soft flakes drifting past the windows, reminiscent of that long-ago storm that had brought them together. The years continued to pass gently. They slowed down more, spending quiet days together, surrounded by the family they'd built. Logan still rode out to check the ranch most days, though not as far. Hannah still tended her garden in the summer, though she needed help with the heavy work. In the spring of 1932, Logan fell ill. It started as a simple cold but developed into pneumonia. Hannah nursed him devotedly, rarely leaving his side. Their children came, worried, but Logan rallied, his strength returning slowly. "You're not getting rid of me that easily," he told Hannah with a weak smile. "Good," Hannah said firmly. "I'm not done with you yet." But they both knew they were in the twilight of their lives. They'd been blessed with long years together, but those years were drawing to a close. They didn't speak of it, but they both felt it, a gentle awareness that their time was precious. On a beautiful June morning in 1935, on what would be their 50th wedding anniversary, they woke early. The house was quiet, their children not due to arrive until later that day for the celebration. Logan suggested a walk, and Hannah agreed. They walked slowly through the property they'd built together, stopping at meaningful spots. The spot where Logan had proposed, the site where their first house had stood, the oak tree they'd planted when Billy was born, now tall and strong. Finally, they settled on the porch, watching the sun rise over the mountains. Logan's arm was around Hannah, her head resting on his shoulder, the same comfortable position they'd been in thousands of times before. 50 years, Logan said wonderingly. Half a century since I found you in that snow. Best 50 years of my life, Hannah said. Every single day, mine too, Logan agreed. Hannah, I want you to know if I had one wish, one thing I could change, I wouldn't change a thing. Our life together has been perfect, not because it was easy, but because it was ours." Hannah lifted her head to look at him. His face was lined with age, his hair white, but his blue eyes still held the same warmth and love they'd had on their wedding day. "I love you, Logan Crawford. With everything I am, I love you. And I love you, Hannah Crawford, always and forever." They sat together as the sun climbed higher, bathed in golden light, surrounded by the evidence of the life they'd built. Their ranch successful and thriving. Their house filled with memories and love. Their family preparing to celebrate this milestone with them. When their children and grandchildren arrived later that day, they found Logan and Hannah still on the porch, hands clasped, smiles on their faces. The celebration was joyful, filled with stories and laughter and love. That evening, after everyone had left, Logan and Hannah prepared for bed. They moved slowly, helping each other with the small tasks that had become more difficult with age. In bed, they curled together as they always had, Hannah's head on Logan's chest, his arm around her. "Thank you," Hannah whispered, "for finding me, for saving me, for loving me." "Thank you for letting me," Logan replied, "for choosing me, for building this beautiful life with me." They fell asleep that way, wrapped in each other's arms, hearts beating in rhythm, together as they'd been for 50 years. Logan passed peacefully in his sleep that night, Hannah in his arms. She woke to find him gone and felt a piece of her soul go with him, but she didn't regret a moment. They'd had 50 years of love, had built a family and a legacy that would continue long after they were gone. Hannah lived another 3 years, surrounded by her children and grandchildren. She spent her days telling stories about Logan, about their life together, making sure the family never forgot the man who'd built it all. She passed quietly in her sleep in the spring of 1938, and the family buried her next to Logan on a hill overlooking the ranch, under the oak tree they'd planted so many years before. Their story lived on, though, passed down through generations. The tale of a cowboy who found a woman stranded in a snowstorm, a woman fleeing a life she never chose, and how they'd built a love that lasted a lifetime. How they'd faced every challenge together, celebrated every joy together, and created a legacy of love that would endure long after they were gone. The ranch remained in the family, passed down to Billy's son, then to his grandson. The house Logan built still stood, carefully maintained, a monument to what could be built when two people chose to love each other, to work together, to face life as partners. And on cold winter nights, when snow fell softly over Montana, family members would gather around the fire and read from the journal Logan and Hannah had written together, their story in their own words. They'd read about a desperate escape, a chance rescue, a love that grew from kindness and respect into something deep and lasting. Young couples, just starting out, would hear the story and feel hope. Older couples, celebrating their own anniversaries, would hear it and feel validation. Everyone who heard it felt the power of it, the truth that real love, the kind that lasts, is built on choice and commitment, on working together and supporting each other's dreams. Hannah Fisher, the orphan girl with no family and no future, had created a family that flourished for generations. Logan Crawford, the lonely cowboy with dreams of building something lasting, had succeeded beyond his wildest imaginings. Together, they'd proven that the greatest adventures often begin with a single choice to help someone in need, and that the strongest foundations are built on love, respect, and partnership. Their love story became legend in Montana, told and retold, inspiring others to believe in the power of kindness, the strength of love, and the beauty of two people choosing to face life together. And though Logan and Hannah were gone, their legacy lived on in every child who bore their name, in every couple who heard their story and believed in love, and in the ranch that still stood as a testament to what they'd built together. The woman who'd fled a life she never chose had found a life beyond her wildest dreams. The cowboy who'd simply been heading home had found his heart's home in her. And together, they'd created a love story for the ages, proof that sometimes the best things in life come from the storms we weather and the choices we make to help those in need.